The cake hit the kitchen floor with a wet splat, chocolate frosting splattering across the white tiles like abstract art. 24 vanilla candles scattered in different directions, their flames extinguished by the impact. "Oops," Melissa said, not even trying to hide her smirk. "Butterfingers." My 74th birthday cake lay destroyed at my feet while my entire family stood frozen in the dining room doorway. My son Robert, my 2 granddaughters, even my elderly sister Ruth, all watching to see how I'd react to this latest humiliation. "It's okay," I said quietly, bending down to pick up the larger pieces. "Accidents happen." "Let me help you, Grandma." My younger granddaughter Emma started to move forward, but Melissa's sharp voice stopped her. "Don't you dare, Emma. She made the mess, she can clean it up." I looked up at my daughter-in-law from my knees on the kitchen floor, surrounded by my ruined birthday cake. Melissa stood there with her arms crossed, chin raised defiantly, daring me to challenge her version of events. "It wasn't an accident," my older granddaughter Sarah whispered, but her mother's withering glare silenced her immediately. I gathered the candles one by one, wiping frosting off the tiles with paper towels while my family watched in uncomfortable silence. Nobody moved to help. Nobody protested Melissa's treatment of me. They'd all learned to pick their battles, and I apparently wasn't worth fighting for anymore. "There," I said, disposing of the last of the cake in the trash. "All clean." Melissa nodded approvingly, as if I were a child who'd finally learned proper behavior. "Maybe next year we'll just do ice cream. Less messy." I smiled politely, kissed my granddaughters goodbye, and left Robert's house without another word. Behind me, I could hear Melissa already moving on, asking the girls what movie they wanted to watch, as if destroying an elderly woman's birthday cake was just another Tuesday evening activity. But as I drove home to my modest apartment across town, I wasn't thinking about the cake or the humiliation. I was thinking about the phone call I needed to make to my property manager. The next morning, I sat in my small kitchen with a cup of coffee and my laptop, reviewing the extensive portfolio that Melissa had no idea existed. Over the past 30 years, I'd quietly built a real estate empire that spanned 3 states. Apartment complexes, commercial properties, and yes, the mortgages on several family members' homes. Including the sprawling 4-bedroom house where Robert and Melissa lived with their 2 daughters. I'd purchased that property 15 years ago when Robert was struggling with credit issues after his divorce from his first wife. He'd needed a place to live with the girls, and I'd wanted to help without making him feel like a charity case. So I'd bought the house and allowed him to make payments to me instead of a bank, building equity for his future while keeping the deed in my name for tax purposes. At least, that's what I'd told him. The truth was simpler. I wanted to protect my investment and my family. I'd seen too many divorces destroy families financially. Now, as I looked at Melissa's social media posts from last night, photos of the girls eating ice cream sundaes, no mention of the birthday cake incident, I realized my caution had been justified. My phone rang. It was my property manager, Janet. "Mrs. Harrison, you said you wanted to discuss the Monroe Street property." "Yes, Janet. I need to review the rental agreement. Has Robert been keeping up with his payments?" "Actually, he's 3 months behind. His wife called last week asking for an extension, said they had some unexpected expenses." I frowned. Robert hadn't mentioned any financial difficulties. But then again, Robert hadn't mentioned a lot of things lately. Like the fact that Melissa had convinced him to put her name on his business accounts. Or that she'd taken out credit cards in his name for her online shopping addiction. "Janet, I want you to send them a formal notice. 30 days to bring the account current or face eviction proceedings." "Are you sure? I mean, it's your son." "It's a business decision," I said firmly. "Send the notice." That afternoon, I drove to Robert's office. He ran a small accounting firm downtown, inherited from his father 20 years ago. What Robert didn't know was that I'd been the silent partner keeping the business afloat during the lean years. Another investment I'd kept quiet about. "Mom." Robert looked surprised when I walked into his office. "What brings you by?" "I wanted to thank you for yesterday. It was quite a memorable birthday." Robert's face flushed. "Mom, about the cake thing, Melissa didn't mean to drop it. She was just throwing it at the floor." I sat down across from his desk. "Robert, we need to talk about your mortgage payments." His expression shifted from embarrassed to confused. What about them? You're 3 months behind. That's impossible. Melissa handles all our bills. She said everything was current. I opened my purse and pulled out the payment records. These are copies of your account statements. When was the last time you actually saw a mortgage payment leave your bank account? Robert studied the papers, his frown deepening. Melissa takes care of all this. She said it was easier if she managed our finances. And you've never questioned where several $1,000s a month was going instead? She said she set up automatic payments. Robert stopped, understanding dawning on his face. Oh God. What has she been doing with the money? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Robert was smart enough to figure it out on his own. How bad is it, Mom? 30 days to bring the account current. Otherwise, you'll need to find somewhere else to live. Robert's face went white. You'd evict your own son? I'd evict a tenant who's been stealing from me for 3 months while his wife destroys birthday cakes for sport. I stood up. But you're not just a tenant, Robert. You're my son. So I'm giving you a choice. What kind of choice? Make the payments current, Melissa gets therapy for her issues, and we establish some ground rules about respect. Or find a new place to live where she can throw all the cake she wants on someone else's floors. That evening, my phone started ringing. First Robert, then Melissa, then Robert again. I let them all go to voicemail. Melissa's message was particularly enlightening. You vindictive old witch. You can't just kick us out because I accidentally dropped a stupid cake. Robert will never choose you over me. Accidentally. Still sticking to that story. Robert's messages were more pleading. Mom, please call me back. We can work this out. Melissa's just stressed about money, that's why she's been difficult lately. By the third day, Melissa showed up at my apartment. I watched from my window as she pounded on my door, shouting about how I was destroying her family out of spite. Mrs. Chen from next door called the police when Melissa started kicking my door. That night, Robert came alone. She doesn't know I'm here, he said when I let him in. Mom, I found where the mortgage money's been going. I waited. Shopping. Mostly clothes and jewelry. Some gambling sites. She's got credit cards I didn't know about, all in my name. Robert sank into my kitchen chair, looking 10 years older than he had a week ago. She's been lying about everything. I know. I know. How long have you known? That she was stealing from you? Since the payment records started showing discrepancies. That she was abusive to me? Since the first family dinner where she accidentally spilled wine on my dress. I poured him a cup of coffee. I've been documenting everything, Robert. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? Or would you have accused me of trying to break up your marriage? Robert's silence was answer enough. The mortgage isn't the only thing I own, I continued. Your business has been struggling, so I've been covering the shortfalls. The building you rent office space in? I bought it 2 years ago when the previous owner was going to evict you for late payments. Robert stared at me. You own my business. I own the building and hold the note on your equipment loans. I've been protecting you, Robert, but I can't protect you from someone who's destroying you from the inside. What do you want me to do? I want you to choose. Your wife's behavior or your family's future. Your daughter's inheritance or Melissa's shopping addiction. Your mother's dignity or keeping the peace with an abusive woman. Robert was quiet for a long time. Finally, he asked, if I leave her, will you help me keep the girls? I'll make sure you have the best lawyers money can buy. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Janet. Mrs. Harrison, Robert brought the mortgage current. Full payment plus late fees. And he wants to discuss purchasing the property outright. What about Melissa? He came alone. Said his wife was no longer involved in financial decisions. The divorce took 6 months. Melissa fought for everything, the house, the business, custody of the girls. But family court judges tend to take a dim view of financial abuse and gambling addictions, especially when there's a pattern of documentation going back years. Robert and the girls moved into a smaller house downtown, closer to his office and my apartment. We had dinner every Sunday, and my granddaughters helped me bake a new birthday cake to replace the one that had been destroyed. Will Melissa ever come back? Emma asked one evening while we decorated cupcakes. I don't think so, sweetheart. Good, Sarah said firmly. She was mean to you, Grandma. And mean to Daddy too. On my 75th birthday, we had 2 cakes, one chocolate, one vanilla. Robert made a speech about family and respect and second chances. The girls gave me a photo album they'd made, full of pictures of our new traditions. And when Emma accidentally knocked over her milk glass, we all laughed and cleaned it up together. Because that's what real families do. They don't throw cakes on the floor and make old ladies clean up the mess. They lift each other up, protect each other, and remember that love isn't about keeping the peace at any cost. Sometimes love means drawing lines in the sand and saying enough. Sometimes it means owning every mortgage and reminding people who holds the real power. And sometimes, it means teaching grown adults that actions have consequences, even when those consequences come with 30 days' notice.